the drift. So if you don't already know, I do the music for a video game called Drift Stage. You can download a free demo right now at www.driftstagegame.com. And then the rest of my music you can listen to at soundcloud.com/MYRONE official. I believe that's MYRONE official.
All right, so I guess what I'll do is I'll take you through Hugh's guitar and show you what's up with it. First, we'll start with the trem because you used a lot of it on that particular track. The cool thing with our trems is, first of all of our hardware is built by Schaller, so it's bulletproof right off the bat. But our trems, these little black things, are actually needle bearings instead of knife edges, so they never wear out. They come back to zero more easily, and you don't have to worry about them slipping on the post like a lot of other trems tend to do. As a result, with the vintage style trems, you can get away with a lot of the more Floyd type sounds, like flutters and the crazy dives and stuff.
All that stuff.
Yes.
It's the smoothest tremolo I think I've ever played. And I had stuff with like Floyd's, and I've had stuff with like super special vintage trims, but there's something about because it's not on a knife edge. It
doesn't have the opportunity to shift, and the saddles on here are like these faux roller things, which kind of help a little bit with the resistance there. We use a 0 fret on everything because we use a Teflon nut on everything. So the Teflon tends to be a little bit softer than like bone or tusk, or even plastic. But so to compensate for that, we use this hardened 0 fret. So you get basically no resistance here. This is a slightly older one, but you can see on his we use these crazy flex retainer string retention system, which is like 2 ball ends from strings. And so when you go crazy on the trem, I don't know if you can see it from all the way back here, but
they move back and forth.
They actually move with the string, so everything comes back to 0, and we use custom oversized locking tuners also from Schaller. So I like these better practically because, better than the Spurzels, because they are a little bit easier to grab on stage if you have a string break or something like that. It's dark, and they add a lot of mass to the headstock, so you get a little bit more sustain out of the guitar than you normally would with super lightweight tuners. But they're not crazy. You don't get a lot of neck dive or anything like that. It's still balanced.
Well, the guitar itself is shaped in a way that it's just like already insanely balanced from the get-go. It's not like you have like a Firebird or something.
Yeah, we're diving crazy.
Top it.
Yeah. You want to play another one, then we'll talk about the neck?
Yeah. Well, he's really not kidding when he says like, oh yeah, it holds tune. Every guitar maker probably ever says that, but like 2 weeks ago, so I play along with doing the stuff for video games. I play like these crazy like warehouse parties with the DJ where he plays lots of crazy stuff, and I kind of just shred over the top. And there was one 2 weeks ago where I show up and like I literally had to fight my way to the DJ booth because it was like in some weird random like warehouse, and like I literally am like in the crowd with my guitar case over my head, like going to the DJ booth, do my setup, and like the only place for me to stand is on top of a speaker stand. So there, like I just couldn't tune at all. Like I couldn't have a pedal in front of me. So I literally took this out of the case and I was like, well, I can't tune, so hopefully it doesn't suck. And people loved it.
Why don't you grab this one? Let's do an experiment real quick.
Okay.
Because this guitar, I have it as a sample. I'm upstate. This cool. I unplugged it over here.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I'm in upstate New York. So I checked this at the airport. So it was in the hold. I flew from New York to Phoenix. Then this stayed in the trunk of my rental car while I drove around Phoenix and Tucson. Drove all the way out to San Diego. Now I'm here.
Haven't tuned it since?
I have not touched a single tuner on the instrument.
I bet it's right on.
And it came from France like a month and a half ago in tune.
Sounds already in tune.
Yeah.
I'd play with it like that.
I feel like this one's a little bit cheating because it's Floyd, but
But I mean, there's so much stuff that factors into tuning that like it's not just like the bridge and the tuner is like a big part of it. And like I'm still so surprised that like people don't know about the neck, how there's no truss rod.
Yeah, that's definitely the coolest thing about the guitars.
Because it never moves, ever.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Vigier has been around since 1980. The company started, Patrice Vigier bought an American guitar in the 70s in France, and it was like, it's like a professional guitar, I can't wait to get it. Finally got it in, and it was a piece of shit. For the amount of money that he felt like he spent on it, it wasn't where it was at. So ever since then, it's kind of been he's been striving to eliminate all the problems that he saw with guitars. So when they first started building them, they were all carbon fiber necks, and they were neck through, and it was cool. But people complain that carbon fiber, if you ever played a carbon fiber neck, it feels a little weird. It's got like, it's super, there's a lot of top end response on a carbon neck that you might not love. And in 1988, he introduced the 1090 neck system. So it's 10% carbon and 90% maple. Now what we do with the build of the instruments is we buy wood by the tree. We cut it into slabs that are roughly the size of a body and the size of a neck, and we let them sit for 3 years before we even touch them. So it's not like a 90-day kiln dry or anything like that. It's dry wood. So it's already really stable. Then what we do is we glue the bodies together because they're all two-piece alder bodies. We slap the tops on, put the carbon, and then in the case of rosewood boards, we put the boards on. In the case of maple boards, the boards never even come off. So if you look at like my bass or any of these maple boarded instruments, there's no seam like there are on a lot of other instruments that claim to be a one-piece neck. Then we let it sit for another year for the glue to set up. So the guitars have been sitting for 4 years now, and in fact, we have so much backlogged wood that most of the stuff that's coming out is like closer to 6 to 8 years. So we have super stable wood to begin with. Then we introduced the carbon fiber, and in, like I said, in 88 we did the 1090 neck system. And in 98 we introduced the Excalibur, which is a little bit less radical than some of our older designs. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to mess with it. The truss rod, carbon fiber rod, you can see, I'll show you guys up close later, goes all the way through the board, but it's still super light. It gives you more sustain. You never have to set it up. It's a lot more resonant. You get a little bit more top end response, and it's completely worry free. You've been traveling with this. You just did South by Southwest.
Yeah.
To NAMM. You did that rave.
Yeah.
And
I think I've done a lot of very like crazy. The thing is like I when I play a gig, it's a lot of the reason why I use weird stuff. Is I constantly think about like how can like my rig be as simple as possible, and usually that means like how can I eliminate things that I like have to worry about, and like just having a guitar that like I know it'll be in tune, like I know it'll sound good. Like I could be playing in like Antarctica and I'd be like, all right, like it's probably will be like in tune.
Yeah,
like for sure.
I mean, Bumblefoot's tech with Guns N' Roses had the easiest job on planet Earth because he had 2 or 3 double necks in rotation. He had a bunch of GPs, which is a single cutaway model, and like they never go out. You don't have to worry about it. Like that's it. You plug it in and you play it, and that's the entire philosophy behind Vigier. Is we don't want you thinking about your instrument. We want you thinking about your music, and that's really important. And we did silly things like, so we went over the neck and trem. In 2011 we switched to all stainless steel frets. So unless you're playing like 300 gigs a year, the frets are probably going to outlast your ability to play them. Our strap buttons even, they're actually machine screws in countersunk brass casing, so it can't strip out. Like, how awful is that? That's like the worst thing at a gig, when your strap button pops off and you're on stage and there's no time to fill it with super glue and stupid matchsticks or whatever. Like, why should you have to worry about that? If you pay,
it's 2015, like you shouldn't have to worry about that.
It's 2015. If you pay a certain amount of money, you should get a guitar that doesn't break while you're using it. And that's the basic philosophy. So if you guys, if you want to play another song, and if you guys want to ask some questions and check the guitars out, I think that's probably what we'll do.
All right, cool. Let me decide.
You're not plugged in.
No, that's that one is for. There's going to be a ski resort level. So the concept of the game is a racing game, and all the level. It's very like throwback '80s, and so all the levels are going to be very like ridiculous and awesome. And one of the ones that was the there's going to be like a ski resort level where you're like drifting under like trailers and stuff.
Sweet. Yeah. So something that I want to point out with the line that's kind of cool that I appreciate because I'm as broke as anybody being in two bands is that the components that go into this guitar, which is the Excalibur Indus, this is the least expensive guitar that we make, are identical to the components that go into something like an Excalibur Custom or an Ultra Blues, which are like, these are the two most expensive Excaliburs that we make, or fretless anyway. The wood comes from the same place, they get the same manufacturing process, the same frets, same hardware. Sometimes the pickup selections are different, but the pickups are never selected to cut corners, they're only selected because of what works for a particular body or concept that we're going for. Really the discrepancy in price is a matter of usually labor costs, material costs. There's no maple top on this one, there's no matching headstock. The Floyds cost a little bit more for us to actually get, and they cost a little bit more for us to actually install because there's two components to it instead of one. So you can feel good buying a $2,500 Vigier as well as buying a $4,200 Vigier because they're all built to the same exacting standards. One of the coolest things I think about our production line is that Patrice Vigier, Mr. Vigier, who started the company, he tests every single guitar that comes off the line. Does it 2 or 3 times a week. He sits in the back. He's got a big orange stack, and he plays Smoke on the Water. hard. And if it passes the test, it does it. He beats the hell out of the trem, he checks the action, and looks the thing over, and if it passes muster, it goes out. There's been more than one occasion where I've had an artist or a store or a sample for myself. They tell me it's coming out in 2 days. Patrice just has to test it, and Patrice tests it, and he goes, "It's not right. Start over from the beginning." So they strip it down, they rebuild the whole thing, they figure out what's wrong, or they switch the neck, or they get a new body for it, whatever. That's not uncommon, and it's frustrating, but at least I know every single guitar that comes off the line is perfect every single time. So yeah, you guys have any questions about the instruments?
Are the basses, they don't have truss rods either?
Yeah, same exact thing. This is actually my bass. I brought it because I like to do demos when I'm like sitting in my hotels alone.
So the action,
So yeah, same exact thing.
the action just stays level the whole time?
Yeah.
Sweet.
And the cool thing, one of the cool things with the neck being so stable, and it's more pronounced on the basses I find than the guitars, is that there's no dead spots anywhere on the neck. And
No buzzing?
No buzzing, and I'll get to that in a sec, but there's no dead spots, and the response string to string is super even and consistent. So like, you know, if you're playing a vintage bass, and you know, you're playing like, you're just rocking out on an A, and then you go, and then, oh, where'd my bass go? You can't hear yourself in the mix. Like, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to crank your compression up super high, even though I do that anyway because I like the way it sounds, but you don't have to. And yeah, to get to the buzzing, the fret buzz, so we use stainless steel frets, we use a 0 fret to help us out with the action, and Patrice and his father, Georges, who the GV is named after, they actually built 2 machines that are in the factory that are top secret. I wasn't even allowed to take pictures of them when I was visiting last year. But they handle our fingerboard radiusing and leveling, and our fret crowning and finishing, and Plek machine is really cool, but the Plek is only as good as the operator. These things smoke it. Everything is within either 1/100 of a millimeter or 1,000th of a millimeter. So the fret jobs are mint. And now that we're doing stainless, it's even better because you never have to worry about it. It's just as good the day it came off, you know, today as it was the day it came off the factory line, which is, that's how it should be. Like, can we not all agree that like an expensive guitar should be that way?
I think the overarching, like if there were a theme to Vigier guitars, it's like they do all they take care of all like the annoying crap that like.
Yeah.
It's like they should, like every guitar should have stainless steel frets. Like every guitar should have the strap things that like it's like.
Shouldn't be any dead notes after a couple
like
of years.
if you want to play like a
or out of the box. I mean, how many guitars have you gotten and you go to play up high and you're like, oh, they didn't level the frets, or dude, there's one I'm really trying not to name manufacturers with examples, but there's a giant manufacturer who does not bevel their frets on $3,000 guitars. You can cut your finger on their guitars. It blows my mind.
I mean, we live
Gibbs.
we live in a world where like most people who make music like DJs or whatever, like they're used to like I'm spoiled. I produce too, and so I'm spoiled. Like when I get a new like plugin or whatever and it's like you open it up and it works.
Yeah.
Guitar, like it's the future. You know, we carry like devices in our pockets where we can access the entirety of human knowledge. Like finally, like someone makes a guitar that like you take it out of the box and it like it's in tune and like like.
And I mean, in the past and currently, there are really cool, innovative guitars that do a lot of that. Like, I am always drawn to Parker. I think they make really cool, unique stuff. But they look like we're trying to be like the nexus of like old school instrument building and new school techniques and designs. Like, there's something about having a piece of wood for a neck instead of having carbon fiber for your neck, or you know, any number of things. That people do funky or like weird pickups and whatnot, but you know, it's still a guitar the way that a guitar was, the way that Leo Fender envisioned it in 1951, but it's a guitar that you don't have to worry about.
Well, it's the difference between this and all these guitars, that's a 1951 design.
Yeah.
This is a few decades younger. You know?
Yeah.
As it should
nice.
be. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Your guitar needs an update.
Yeah, even things like the Expert. This is, Patrice only owns 2 Vigiers, believe it or not. He has 2 guitars at his house. One of them never made it to production. The other one is an expert right off the line with 54. This one's a 54.
The other
The
thing,
neck is a little bit bigger, yeah.
yeah, but I like it. It's comfortable. It's like this is like if you want like a more vintage style
Yeah,
guitar.
that's
if
the
you're
whole
like
idea.
a dad.
Yeah.
That's what this is. The other thing that I think people sleep on a lot is like there are a lot of companies that have like really like extended cutaways, but a lot of them, like if you're doing like, I don't really like do the crazy like classical stuff, but like I know people who do. And one of the things that I always kind of like, whenever I pick up a guitar, there are a couple things I check. It's like one, like the action, two, the intonation, and then like the third one is like how does the upper cutaway feel like when you are doing stuff like this.
Sure.
And like a lot of guitars, like yeah, the cutaway is really deep, but like the horn will be like out like
In the pinky
here,
bit.
and when you start doing this, like your hand like will just like it's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
There's one company that I'm thinking of in particular that
Yeah. I have an idea.
they have a very sharp
Yeah.
cutaway.
Oh,
Start
yeah.
doing this, it's
Oh,
like
go too tough.
you know, and like you have veins in your hands, so you get all like paranoid when you get up there. But that's not the case with Vigier.
Yeah.
this guitar has been my main, ever since you gave it to me, it's pretty much been like, I keep it next to, so I have like a boat of like several other guitars, but they kind of have just been sitting there because this kind of does everything that I need it to do. Every once in a while I'll pull another one out just because like sometimes when you have like 6 or 5 tracks of guitars, it's always nice to just use a different guitar so like it like your mix doesn't kind of like congeal together in a bad way. But like I was like, oh cool, like it has coil splitting, but like I'll probably just use my Strat because it has single coils. And then I A/B'd it one day and I was like, this split kind of sounds better. And that's probably because A, the pickups are good, but also this like intonates better, has better action, like the frets are stainless steel. Like my Strat frets are like, they need to, like you guys, I should just put a Vigier neck on my Strat.
I would also suffer, unfortunately.
But yeah, because I mean a lot of the stuff I do is like, usually it's like clean guitar, and for the stuff that I like, I kind of like the single coil sound better, especially when I'm doing like more funky stuff. So like it's great that I can just sit there and work on beats all day and like, oh, like I need this sound from my guitar and this will do it. And like one of my big things is when I'm working, like I'm so lazy that like if something is like, if I have a piece of gear that is like out of reach, like there's a really solid chance that like I won't use it because it's like because the way I work is like I use Ableton Live, and like when you program using Live, like a lot of times a lot of it's like on the go, you're like in a flow state, and like to have to get up and like go to my guitar boat and pick up another guitar because it has like a one sound that I like is like super annoying. So it's like it's good that I can do like crazy like shred stuff with this and then like split the coil with the flick of the switch.
And now the ultimate question that seemingly every internet troll wants to know. Will it get? Seems like a stupid question, but in this case, this is a guitar that will do that sound extraordinarily well if what you want is to go